The unexpected welcome. The twin moons of Kepler 442b cast eerie shadows through the dense canopy as Zareth moved like liquid death through the undergrowth. Her crystalline exoskeleton shifted colors with each step, perfectly matching the bioluminescent fungi that dotted the alien trees. The energy rifle fused to her right arm hummed with barely contained power, its targeting system tracking heat signatures through the perpetual twilight of the jungle floor. For 7 rotations, she had hunted the human survivor, Captain Sarah Martinez, according to the salvaged records from the crashed colony vessel, Horizon's Dream. The ship had been carrying 2,000 human colonists to establish a new settlement, when it encountered the gravitic anomaly that pulled it into this system. Only 17 survivors had made it to the escape pods, and Zareth had already collected 16 of them for the Kethver Dominion's research facilities. This last human was different. While the others had panicked, made foolish mistakes, or simply given up when faced with the planet's hostile environment, Sarah Martinez had adapted. She had learned which plants were safe to eat, how to purify the acidic water, and most impressively, how to avoid the native predators that should have killed her. Within hours of landing, Zareth paused at a massive root system, her enhanced senses detecting the familiar scent trail. The human had passed this way recently, perhaps within the last few hours, but something felt wrong. The trail was too obvious, too easy to follow. In her 3 decades as an elite hunter for the Dominion, Zareth had learned to trust her instincts. And right now, those instincts were screaming that she was walking into a trap. She activated her personal shield and advanced more cautiously. The scent trail led up a gentle slope toward what her scanners indicated was a small clearing. As she crested the rise, Zareth stopped dead in her tracks. Below her, in a circular clearing surrounded by towering fern trees, a small fire crackled. Merrily, the human sat beside it, stirring something in a metal container that looked suspiciously like it had been fashioned from part of her crashed ship. Captain Sarah Martinez looked up as Zareth approached, and instead of the terror or desperate aggression the hunter expected, she saw only calm acknowledgement. The human was smaller than most of her species, perhaps 1.5 meters in height, with dark hair streaked with premature gray and skin weathered by exposure to harsh environments. Her uniform was torn and patched, but clean. Her hands were steady as she continued stirring whatever was cooking in the improvised pot. "You're right on time," Sarah said in perfectly accented Kethver standard, her vocal cords somehow managing the complex harmonic overtones that conveyed respectful greeting to a superior. "I was starting to worry the stew would overcook." Zareth targeting system automatically locked onto the human's center mass, but her finger hesitated over the firing stud. How did this primitive creature know her language? The human species had only achieved interstellar flight within the last 50 standard years. They were barely more advanced than the other pre-warp civilizations the Dominion occasionally encountered and catalogued. "You seem surprised," Sarah continued, ladling the aromatic mixture into 2 bowls. Had she prepared 2 bowls? Please, sit. "I know you haven't eaten a proper meal in days. Hunting me through this jungle couldn't have left much time for foraging." The hunter's exoskeleton rippled with colors that indicated confusion and wariness. This was not how prey was supposed to behave. Prey ran, prey hid, prey begged for mercy or fought with desperate fury. They did not calmly invite their predators to dinner while speaking their language with perfect pronunciation. "How do you know?" "Kethver standard," Zareth demanded, keeping her weapon trained on the human, while her free manipulator appendages spread wide in a threat display. Your species has had minimal contact with the Dominion. Sarah smiled, a peculiarly human expression. That showed her teeth, but somehow conveyed warmth rather than aggression. We're fast learners. I've been monitoring your communications for the past week. Your language follows logical patterns that human brains are actually quite good at recognizing. Plus, I found the linguistic database from the Horizon's Dream, before the ship's core went critical. She held out one of the bowls, steam rising from its surface. The smell was incredible. A complex mixture of local herbs and what Zarath's enhanced olfactory senses identified as properly prepared, protein suitable for Kethva digestion. How had the human known her species' dietary requirements? You've been leading me here, Zarath realized, though she still didn't lower her weapon. This whole chase, it was deliberate. Guilty as charged, Sarah admitted cheerfully, though I prefer to think of it as strategic relocation. This clearing has several advantages. Fresh water from that spring over there, good sightlines in case of predator approach, and it's situated at the optimal distance from the crash site to discourage scavengers while remaining accessible. The human took a bite of her own stew and made an appreciative sound. The local tubers have a nutty flavor once you properly neutralize their alkaloids, and these mushrooms, they're actually protein-rich and have most of the amino acids your metabolism requires. I may have added some synthesized supplements from the medical bay stores, just to make sure the nutritional profile was complete. Zoratha's mind reeled. This was impossible. Humans were supposed to be a primitive species, barely capable of surviving in their own native environment, let alone on an alien world with completely different biochemistry. Yet this small female had not only survived for 3 weeks on a planet that should have killed her, she had thrived. More than that, she had analyzed Kethva physiology and prepared food specifically tailored to an alien hunter's dietary needs. Why? Zarath asked, finally lowering her weapon slightly. You know what I am, what I'm here to do. Why would you help me? Sarah set down her bowl and met the hunter's compound eyes directly. In Kethva culture, such direct eye contact from a prey species would be considered either a challenge or a sign of madness. But there was neither aggression nor insanity in the human's steady gaze, only a tired kind of wisdom. Because Zarath, I don't think either of us wants to be here. The hunter's exoskeleton went completely transparent with shock. How do you know my name? Your communications, remember. You've been reporting to someone called Commander Vexstar every 12 hours. She calls you by name quite frequently, usually followed by increasingly impatient demands for status updates. Sarah smiled again, this time with what appeared to be genuine sympathy. You're not just a hunter, are you? You're a person with thoughts and feelings, and probably a family somewhere who worries when you're gone too long on assignment. For the first time in her adult life, Zarath found herself completely off balance. The human wasn't just offering food and demonstrating impossible survival skills. She was offering understanding, recognition of personhood that even many of Zarath's own kind rarely bothered to extend. The Dominion ordered me to collect human specimens, Zarath heard herself saying, though she hadn't consciously decided to speak. For biological research, your species' adaptability is considered scientifically valuable. I figured as much. Sarah nodded. The question is, what do you want to do about it? What do you mean? Sarah stood and walked to the edge of the clearing, gazing up at the alien constellations visible through a gap in the canopy. I mean, do you enjoy being a collector of sentient beings for experimentation? Is that who you want to be? The question hit Zeroth like a plasma bolt to the chest. In all her years of service to the Dominion, no one had ever asked her what she wanted. She was a tool, a weapon, a solution to problems that required swift and efficient violence. The idea that she might have preferences, might choose a different path, was almost incomprehensible. "It's what I was bred for," she said finally. "It's my purpose." "That's what you were told was your purpose," Sarah corrected gently. "But purpose isn't something that gets assigned to you from the outside. It's something you choose for yourself." She turned back to face the hunter, and Zareth was surprised to see no fear in the human's expression. Only compassion and a strange kind of hope. "I have a proposition for you, Zareth. But first, why don't you try the stew? I really did work hard to get the seasoning right, and it's getting cold." Almost without conscious thought, Zareth found herself settling into a resting crouch beside the fire. Her weapon powered down too, stand-by mode, as she accepted the offered bowl. The first taste was a revelation. The complex flavors were perfectly balanced, providing not just nutrition, but genuine pleasure. It had been years since she had eaten something prepared with care rather than simply consuming. Standard military rations. How did you know?" she asked softly. "About the mineral supplements, the protein requirements, all of it." Sarah returned to her own seat, stirring the fire to cast more light on both their faces. "Research and educated guessing, mostly. But also because I've learned that survival isn't just about knowing your environment. It's about knowing the other people in it, understanding what they need, what they fear, what they hope for." She paused, taking another spoonful of stew. "You've been hunting me for a week, but you could have killed me 3 days ago when I was sleeping by the river. Your weapon has range capabilities that far exceed what you've been using. You've been giving me opportunities to escape, creating chances for me to demonstrate my adaptability." Why, Zareth's crystalline plates shifted to deep blue, a color that indicated introspection and uncertainty. I'm not sure. Orders are orders, but something about this assignment felt wrong from the beginning. Humans may be technologically primitive, but you clearly demonstrate sapience, complex reasoning, emotional depth, and that matters too. It shouldn't, Zareth said quickly. "I'm a hunter. Moral considerations are not part of my training." "But they're part of who you are," Sarah observed. "Training can't erase conscience, only bury it. The fact that you're struggling with this assignment tells me everything I need to know about your character." The two sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, finishing their meal while the sounds of the alien jungle surrounded them. Night-singing insects created a symphony of chirps and whistles, while somewhere in the distance, a large herbivore bellowed its territorial call. The twin moons had risen higher, casting the clearing in an ethereal silver glow. "So said eventually, what exactly is this proposition of yours?" Sarah smiled, and this time there was something decidedly mischievous in her expression. "How would you feel about helping me save both our species?" The Alliance, Formzarath's exoskeleton, cycled through rapid color changes as she processed the human's words. Confusion, skepticism, and a growing curiosity painted her crystalline plates in shifting patterns of amber and violet. "Save our species from what?" Sarah stood and moved to a makeshift table she had constructed from salvaged materials. Several devices lay scattered across its surface, their origin clearly human but modified with components that Zareth didn't recognize. From something that's been sleeping beneath this planet for longer than either of our civilizations have existed. Something we accidentally woke up when the Horizon's dream crashed. The hunter rose smoothly to her feet, her weapon automatically powering up at the mention of an unknown threat. Explain. 3 days ago, I detected energy readings from deep underground, massive power signatures moving through what appears to be an extensive network of tunnels and chambers beneath the jungle floor. Sarah activated one of her devices, projecting a 3-dimensional map of the surrounding area. Pulsing red dots indicated the energy sources, forming a pattern that stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. At first I thought it was geological, geothermal activity, or perhaps some kind of natural electromagnetic phenomenon. But the patterns are too regular, too purposeful. Sarah manipulated the projection, zooming in on specific areas. Look at these movement patterns. They're coordinated, intelligent. Zareth studied the holographic display with growing concern. Her own scanners had detected unusual seismic activity during the past few days, but she had dismissed it as natural planetary processes. Seeing it displayed this way, with clear patterns of organization and intent, painted a very different picture. What kind of intelligence creates tunnel networks of this scale? She asked, extending her own scanning equipment to verify Sarah's data. The readings matched perfectly, and her more advanced Kethva sensors revealed additional details that made her plates shift to deep red with alarm. I don't know, Sarah admitted, but yesterday I found this. She led Saroth to the edge of the clearing, where a section of ground had been carefully excavated. Embedded in the dirt was what appeared to be a fragment of some kind of metallic structure. The surface was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow when viewed directly, creating an almost hypnotic effect. Don't stare at it too long, Sarah warned. I made that mistake on the first day, lost about 6 hours and woke up with the worst headache of my life. Whatever this material is, it has properties that affect consciousness. Zareth approached cautiously, her enhanced visual filters automatically adjusting to minimize the hypnotic effect. The material was unlike anything in her extensive database of known substances. The molecular structures seemed to exist in a constant state of flux, defying conventional physics. This is technology, she said with certainty, advanced beyond anything either of our species has developed. The energy patterns suggest it's still partially active, despite being buried for what must be geological ages. That's what I thought too, Sarah nodded. And if you overlay the tunnel movement patterns with the crash site of the Horizon's Dream... She activated another projection, showing the correlation between the ship's impact location and the increasing activity in the underground network. The implications were clear. The human vessel's crash had somehow triggered a response from whatever ancient intelligence lay buried beneath the planet's surface, and that response was accelerating. The activity patterns show increasing intensity and organization over the past week, Sarah continued. Whatever's down there is waking up, and based on the scale of these tunnels, we're talking about something that could potentially threaten any life form on the planet's surface. Zareth's mind raced through the tactical implications. If Sarah's analysis was correct, they were dealing with a threat that dwarfed the simple hunter-prey dynamic that had brought them together. Her training kicked in, shifting her focus from collection mission to threat assessment. Have you detected any surface manifestations, direct contact attempts, hostile actions? Not yet, but I think that's only a matter of time, Sarah replied grimly. The energy output has increased by 30% since yesterday alone. Something this powerful and this old, when it fully awakens, I doubt it will be happy about the recent intrusion into its territory. The hunter's plates shifted to strategic gold as she processed the information. My ship is in orbit. I could call for evacuation, request a full military assessment from the Dominion fleet. Could you really? Sarah asked quietly. What would happen to the human survivors when Dominion forces arrive? What would happen to this planet's ecosystem if your military decides to sterilize the surface to eliminate the threat? Zarath fell. Silent, she knew the answer. Standard Dominion protocol for unknown threats was overwhelming force followed by complete resource extraction. Any surviving humans would still be taken for research, and the planet would be strip-mined for valuable materials. The ancient intelligence would either be destroyed or captured for technological exploitation. There has to be another way, she said finally, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. Sarah smiled. I was hoping you'd say that, because I think I have an idea, but it's going to require both human ingenuity and Kethva technology. To pull off, she gestured toward her collection of modified devices. I've been working on a way to communicate with whatever's down there. The energy patterns suggest a form of consciousness, but it's operating on frequencies and wavelengths that human technology can barely detect. Your equipment, though, has the range and sensitivity we need. You want to make contact, Zara realized. Rather than treating it as a threat, you want to establish communication. Exactly. Think about it from their perspective. They've been sleeping peacefully for eons, and suddenly a strange vessel comes crashing through their front door. They're probably just trying to figure out what happened and whether we represent a danger to them. Zareth moved closer to examine Sarah's work. The human had somehow managed to interface her ship's primitive communication array with components salvaged from various other systems, creating a hybrid device that bridged the gap between human and Kethva technology. This is remarkable work, she admitted. How did you know these components would be compatible? I didn't, but I had to try something, Sarah replied with a self-deprecating shrug. Humans have this tendency to see patterns and connections where others might see only chaos. Sometimes we're wrong, but sometimes we stumble onto solutions that more advanced civilizations miss because they're too complex or too rigid in their thinking, Zareth added, understanding dawning in her voice. The Dominion approach would be to catalog and classify everything according to existing parameters. Your approach is to adapt and improvise based on immediate needs. Different survival strategies for different challenges, Sarah agreed. But together, we might be able to find an approach that neither of our species could manage alone. The two worked together through the long alien night, combining their knowledge and resources to refine the communication device. Zareth's technical expertise complemented Sarah's intuitive understanding of system integration, while the human's willingness to experiment balanced the hunter's methodical precision. As the twin moons set and the first pale light of Kepler-4 for 2b's primary star began filtering through the canopy, they were ready for their first attempt at contact. Are you sure about this? Zareth asked as Sarah made final adjustments to the device. Once we activate this system, there's no hiding our presence from whatever's down there. If your assessment is wrong, if this intelligence is hostile, then we face that together, Sarah replied firmly. But if we don't try, if we just wait for military solutions from either of our species, I guarantee the outcome will be worse. For everyone involved, Zarath looked at the small human who had completely upended her understanding of the universe in the span of a single night. Sarah Martinez represented everything the Dominion had taught her to dismiss about primitive species. Yet here she was, demonstrating wisdom that Zarath's own people rarely showed, courage that put elite warriors to shame, and an innovative intelligence that found solutions where trained experts saw only problems. Together, Zarath agreed, her plates shifting to the warm gold that indicated trust and partnership. Sarah activated the device, and immediately both of them felt a change in the air around them. The jungle sounds quieted, as if every living thing was holding its breath. Deep beneath their feet, something ancient and powerful stirred in response to their call. The real adventure was just beginning, but for the first time since landing. On this alien world, neither of them faced it alone. The hunter had found something far more valuable than her original prey. She had found an ally, a friend, and a new understanding of what it meant to choose her own path among the stars. As answering signals began pulsing through their makeshift communication array, Sarah and Zarath stood side by side, ready to bridge the gap between three different forms of intelligence and perhaps, if they were very lucky and very brave, prevent an interspecies war that could consume entire worlds. The message that emerged from their device was simple, transmitted in mathematical concepts that any intelligence could understand. We come in peace. We wish to communicate. We are sorry for disturbing your rest. Deep beneath the jungle floor, something vast and ancient considered this unprecedented greeting from the small creatures who had fallen from the sky. For the first time in millions of years, it was curious rather than merely cautious. The conversation that would reshape the relationship between three civilizations was about to begin. Asterisk.